I thought $100 a month was too small to change my life. 30 years later, that tiny habit became over $121,000. The strange part is, the first year felt almost pointless. Before I changed, I watched that amount vanish from my account every month. It never went to anything dramatic, memorable, or life changing. Just a forgettable dinner, a random app, or small transactions. Separately, they meant nothing, but collectively, they ate my cash. One evening, I decided to stop letting that money slip away. I didn't start with a massive inheritance or a lucky bonus. I just took that exact same $100 and made it intentional. The early math of small investing is honestly incredibly slow. From the outside, the first few years look completely dead. That slow progress causes most people to quit before they start. But that first step did something that had nothing to do with math. It completely changed the financial category I was operating in. It changed my priorities, my awareness, and what was possible. I remember the Tuesday evening I finally opened my first account. It took me about 20 minutes sitting alone on my living room couch. I linked my regular checking details to a new brokerage app. I set an automatic transfer of $100 for the first. I picked a simple, low cost total market index fund like VTI. Other options were FZROX or SWTSX, but the choice mattered less. I hit the confirm button, closed the application, and went to bed. The next morning, my regular life looked absolutely identical. The coffee tasted the same, and the morning commute took as long. Nothing felt different, which is why most people stall right here. But this wasn't just a financial choice, it was an identity shift. Before that night, I was someone who intended to invest someday. After that night, I was an actual investor who owned the market. That tiny shift in identity changed every single future decision. By month six, my newly formed routine faced its first real test. The stock market dropped about 6% in just 3 weeks. My $600 in contributions suddenly shrank down to $563. Seeing a $37 loss on paper made my stomach drop. Our minds are wired to treat any financial loss as a physical threat. That was my first real trial. And it wasn't about being brilliant. It was about my ability to do nothing when everything felt wrong. The temptation to sell it all and hide and save cash was intense. But I forced myself to close the app and let the system run. At this early stage, your job is not to optimize your positions. Your only job is to stay out of the way and let time do its work. A famous JP Morgan study found something every beginner must hear. Missing just the 10 best days over 20 years cuts returns in half. And those great days almost always follow the absolute worst ones. The people sitting in cash waiting for stability miss the recovery. I left my money alone during that drop, and the machine survived. After a full year, my total out of pocket contributions hit $1,200. At the standard 7% average return, the balance was $1,247. I had made just $47 in pure market growth. $47 after a whole year of disciplined saving. It feels like a brutal argument against starting small, doesn't it? And this is where most people make the wrong conclusion. They look at $47 and call the whole system useless. From the outside, it looks like a complete waste of your effort. But you must realize you are not building a balance yet. You build a rate. That $47 was the first quiet spark of compounding. Next year, that same small spark will double on the same inputs. Something else happened that did not show up on the statement balance. I started tracking returns, which meant I started seeing costs. I noticed the high fees inside my old workplace retirement accounts. Some funds charged 1.2% when others cost near zero. I realized credit card interest was actively canceling my progress. The small $100 habit expanded my wider financial awareness. By year 5, I had contributed $6,000 of my money. With a steady 7% average return, the balance sat at $7,200. The market had finally added $1,200 on top of my cash. My money was now generating about $42 every month. That is half of my monthly contribution, created without any labor. But year 5 is exactly where lifestyle inflation becomes lethal. The most dangerous moment was not the market crash. It was the year I finally started earning more money. Your income is higher, and $100 feels completely tiny. A quiet voice tells you that you have been disciplined for long enough. It says pausing the automated transfer for just 1 year won't matter. But dropping out at this stage destroys the back half of your growth. Missing $3,600 between year 5 and 8 hurts. By year 30, that brief pause costs you roughly 19,000. The pause that felt minor was a massive mistake made carelessly. I didn't stop the machine. I left the automated pipeline open. A decade in, $12,000 contributed out of pocket. At that 7% return, the total balance hit around $17,400. The market had added nearly 45 cents for every dollar I saved. Somewhere after the first decade, the math finally starts to flip. In strong years, the account could grow more than I added myself. Eventually, the money starts working harder than your monthly deposits. At this stage, the monthly transfer was no longer a daily chore. It became my default financial settings, running silently in the dark. Stopping the transfer would have felt completely wrong to me then. I had 10 full years of proof that I could stick to a commitment. That personal consistency was worth far more than the cash balance. After 20 years, my total contributions reached 24,000. With compounding, the total balance climbed to approximately $52,000. The market generated $28,000 more than I put in. My money had officially made more wealth than my actual physical labor. This was the first time I understood the real goal of this process. I was never trying to simply get rich as quickly as possible. I was trying to stop being the only active worker in my life. The math had fully flipped, and the momentum was truly undeniable. I was no longer the primary engine pushing this wealth forward. I was simply the steward watching a self sustaining system expand. By year 30, my out of pocket contributions totaled $36,000. But the final balance at 7% grew to roughly $121,000. The market did the heavy lifting, adding $85,000. For every single dollar I put in, the system added $2. To be precise, it added $2.36 on top. If you scale those exact same weights, the reality becomes massive. 200 a month scales to approximately $243,000 over time. 300 a month reaches roughly $365,000 over 3 decades. And 500 a month grows into more than $608,000 in total. The most critical variable in this equation is never the amount, it is the time. Compounding needs decades the way fire needs oxygen. It cannot work without it, and more of it scales faster than you think. The balance changes, but the mental shift is the real victory here. Our human minds track simple, linear addition, not rapid multiplication. In the early days, it feels like absolutely nothing is happening. You are simply sitting in the completely flat part of the curve. But the second half of the timeline is where everything explodes. I remember waking up at 2 in the morning to check apps out of panic. But somewhere around year 5, that background anxiety disappeared. Checking the account wasn't driven by fear anymore. It was curiosity. Watching something grow is entirely different from watching it stop. That peace of mind is exactly what $100 a month buys. It won't alter your life tomorrow, but it alters your choices today. The person 30 years from now depends entirely on your system now. Looking back, I do not think starting small is a waste of your time. It is the only way to build the financial character you will need later. Wealth is not a single lucky event that happens to fortunate people. It is the result of deliberate systems running quietly over decades. The choice to start is the hardest part of the entire journey. But once the plumbing is set up, the system does the heavy lifting. If you want to set this up without overthinking every single fund, I break down the simple automated system in the video on screen now. Watch that next, because starting correctly matters more than starting big.